Ladies and gentlemen, this is the state of the scene.
Yo, what the fuck is up, Warped Tour? The state of the scene at SOTS Podcast on all social media. Sam here with Marcos.
It's been a while.
It's been ages. It's been an eternity. I barely remember what you look like.
It's been a couple weeks.
Sorry. What do we usually do when we fuck off for a couple of weeks? Apologize, I feel like is the least right. The bare minimum.
Least important thing to do, I agree.
Sorry we left you. Ugh. I didn't feel good about it. I would have preferred to be recording.
Felt all right. It's nice to get a break every now and again, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, you need a little summer vacation?
Yeah, that's what it was.
Need a little recharge on your batteries? Good. So you'd say you're coming back to this episode refreshed?
Well, listen, we're going into the final stretch of the year, right?
Ah, fuck. When you put it like that.
Playoff mode. You got to start really thinking about your favorite song of the year, your favorite album of the year.
No, it's too soon.
Is it?
Too soon. There's too much.
Too soon?
There's too much left. There's too much left on. There's too many unknowns. What if I don't know. What the fuck could happen? What if My Chemical Romance comes back? I don't fucking know. You know?
I was just thinking about My Chemical Romance this morning, bro.
Like the rest of us.
It came back, have been back for like 6 years, and all they've had to say is just 5 minutes worth of a song, right?
Fuck all the show for it. I agree with you.
That's all they came back to say is let's tour a little bit, let's release one song. I'm in disbelief right now when
first.
I reflect on that.
My Chemical Romance, lazy. Get your shit
together.
Together. Get back in the studio. No more of this LS Dunes bullshit.
Yep.
Enough.
Been riding that Black Parade a little too long. Get back in the studio.
Umbrella Academy ends this year. We're finished with the bullshit.
Do you think that's been like, do you think when that finally finishes, like...
No, because he literally signed another deal with Netflix as soon as it was over. Remember?
Netflix.
Nurse who works at a fucking the haunted...
It's a bit of a Crunchyroll title.
Fucking hospital shit, yeah.
Right.
Marcus, as always, we're going to discuss a few smaller news stories. Before we take some Patreon questions, get into a little daily discourse, jump into the news, like the real news, like the actual news, like the biggest stories we missed in the last couple of weeks. And then we're going to review some new albums this week. Wage War, the story so far. You excited?
Yeah.
I'm going to need you at your fucking, like, A+ game, S-tier game. Like, I need you to come in on fucking fire. They've missed us, and we need to let them know why. You ready?
Yeah.
Sam Carter confirms Architects are recording next album with Jordan Fish, who is currently also producing the next album for English pop punk legends Busted. Additionally, Jordan Fish was recently photographed alongside Bad Omens and Zach Cervini. Marcos.
I'm not going to lie. If every week on this show we just gave a Jordan Fish update,
Jordan Fish sightings,
that's enough for me.
Yeah.
Not so rare, it turns out.
He's all over. He gets around.
Is this the first bit of confirmation of, like, the first, I guess, 2 Jordan Fish produced records, not just songs, that we'll be getting?
So, interesting you bring that up, because we're going to talk about potentially a third when we get into the news. That's right. Jordan Fish is back and Bring Me the Horizon. They've been working on Posthuman 3. Get fucking hyped. All right, let's start with the first one here. The Architects makes the most of Architects. Sam Carter was the first guy on the phone when he found out Jordan Fish left Bring Me the Horizon. Like,
he had what, a max
12 minutes
offer?
after the Instagram story went up, Sam Carter was right there on his fucking phone.
Right. You up, mate? Boy.
And this one probably makes the most amount of sense, right?
Yes.
Like, there's nothing surprising. Architects, the second biggest band in British metalcore. Yeah, they probably also want that clean #1 album that Ammo was 5 years ago.
You're thinking Full Ammo?
Full Ammo, based on the one single we've gotten, no, right?
No.
Like, though to be fair, like, Ammo had a couple heavy songs. Heavy adjacent songs or fucking whatever. Do I think they're going to go full Ammo? No, but I think Architects are ready to experiment a little bit, especially if it can notch them like
No, I think they've
a
been
real
doing
like
that.
fucking victory. You know what I mean? Like the Architects is ready for that #1 album. They're ready for it.
I mean,
Which I don't think they've had.
that was
like,
my
I'm fairly certain they haven't had.
That was my first thought with this, was that like Architects needed like a really guaranteed W, and I think this is. I feel like Jordan Fish right now can do no wrong.
Yeah, Busted's interesting. So I'm not super familiar with them. They were like their like hottest album dropped in like 2003. I know one of their members is from Fight Star. Outside of that, like I don't have a lot of history with Busted. That Busted to me feels like management said, we're gonna put some feelers out there and get you some money. And like Busted was easy dollars. Like, we're coming back, we're like seeing ish, and then like here's this Jordan Fish guy. Look what he did for Bring Me the Horizon very recently.
Have Busted been away?
I think Busted haven't been like, I don't want to say they haven't been relevant, but I don't think they've been like, I don't think they've popped the way they did earlier in their career. Like I think they put out like a greatest hits album recently. You know what I mean? So like Busted's kind of like on like the back half of their career, you know?
Okay.
As any band who had like a big album in the early 2000s would be.
Sure.
Bad Omens. Woof. Woof.
We're all
This could be the universe, right?
sitting with bated breath.
This could be an infinity stone by the time they're finished with it. Like, this could change everything.
Do they connect on such a level
Yeah.
similar to about 10, 11 years ago when Bring Me the Horizon connected with Jordan Fish at
Sure.
that level?
Sure.
Do we live in a Fish full Bad Omens future here?
Not
I'm
entirely
trying to make it
sure
work.
what you said there.
Does he join Bad Omens?
No, he doesn't join Bad Omens.
Is the offer on the table?
No, I don't think that. I just don't think it would make a lot of sense if Jordan Fish just stepped into Bad Omens. Like that
It's not
for me
happening.
doesn't line up in any capacity. But I do think them teaming up makes a lot of sense. Like I think you have two relatively prolific acts in the scene right now. Jordan Fish has to be arguably
Again, I think any prolific act in this scene, any of the top dogs, Sam, they're all knocking on Fish's door.
This has to make him the hottest property, right? Like when you see Jordan Fish bounce from like Bring Me to Architects to Busted to Bad Omens to Poppy, who we'll talk about a little later.
There was something with Spirit Box that I don't think has actually shown its face yet.
When was this?
I believe Spirit Box was the first band in the studio with Fish post-announcement.
You got to think how pissed Sam Carter was when he called Jordan Fish and the line was busy because Cordy LaPlante was on there with him. Insane. Marcus, Code Orange took a shot at Avenged Sevenfold this weekend after Download Festival shortened sets to accommodate Avenged Sevenfold's full performance after a late start to the festival. Guitarist Reba Myers of Code Orange was quoted as saying, "This goes out to Avenged Sevenfold for trying to fuck everyone's set." Marcos, in the instance that a festival gets delayed for rain or what have you, should every band have to give a little bit of their set to accommodate the headline?
I was thinking for every band like Code Orange out there that's pissed about this, there's 5 other bands that are just like, fuck yes.
Oh, you think
4
short
songs
work
set
day,
tonight.
full pay?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I feel you.
I kind of love this, but it's only because Avenged Sevenfold is the one in the crosshairs.
You just like to see somebody take a shot at Avenged Sevenfold?
100%. When was the last time we got a good like beef centered around Avenged Sevenfold?
A lot of people were saying
Ever?
this. A lot of people were saying this when I posted it on Twitter. They're like, "It's about time. It's about time." Like we've had to watch from the outside while rap has the greatest beef in the last century.
Yeah.
And everyone, like, it's constantly memed. It's all anyone ever talks about.
It's been hard to
And then here
stomach.
we are in the metal community. He is like, yeah, we respect Avenged Sevenfold for everything they've brought to the genre.
Baby Metal posting group photos with everybody.
No, wait, that I like.
Everyone.
That I enjoy. Baby Metal starting shit with a band would actually be the funniest thing that ever happened. Like if Baby Metal
No,
came,
I'm saying-
if Baby Metal were at Download and they just like, "Man, fuck Avenged Sevenfold, y'all." Then we'd have some real juice here.
I think you can probably look at it at a deeper level, and it's who did Baby Metal not recently get a photo
Who
with
did Baby
during
Metal
their
not
tour
recently
circuit?
get Avenged Sevenfold?
Their
Technically,
festival circuit? Did they? Did they not?
I don't know if they technically played together. Who was at Sick New World?
Everyone.
Just about everybody, actually.
Everyone.
So
Did they get a photo of System of a Down?
did Baby Metal technically get a picture with everybody who was at Sick New World? No. So Baby Metal maybe has a lot of enemies. But you've deviated too far from what we've been talking about here, Marcus.
No, you deviated. My actually, I guess I deviated, but you further deviated. I don't know. I like that Code Orange definitely has done stuff like this in the past, as far as like,
what do you mean?
Stirred up some shit. So I appreciate that like Code Orange exists apart from many reasons, including creating music. But to stir the pot and be that sort of band as well.
In this scenario, do you think the headliner should cut their set a little bit short to accommodate everybody else?
Hell no, dude. The only reason I am fine with all this is, again, because it's Avenged Sevenfold.
In which case it would be a godsend for that crowd,
Are they
right?
not going to play like, a 20-minute operatic song from their, latest album? That'd be fine with me.
Yeah, you got to think the headline festival is like, fuck, we got to cut one song from every band on this festival, or M Shadows. You guys cut 2 songs from Life is But a Dream or whatever the fuck it's called.
This really only affects like one stage, would it not?
I think so. This came from like an article in what's that fucking newspaper from the UK? Help me out. God damn it.
Kerrang, Rock Sound.
God damn it. No, not
newspaper?
Like an actual legitimate like newspaper. What is there like?
The British Post?
Yeah, the British. So this came from the British Post, and they were like, Bleed From Within was pretty good, but their set was short too, and all this and that, right? They didn't mention every band who had a short set, but I think a handful of bands all had to deal with this.
Imagine this is like...
The fuck is the name of that British newspaper? It's going to drive me insane.
Imagine
The Telegraph.
Someone complaining that like, My Chemical Romance needs to cut a song from Black Parade at this coming When We Were Young Fest.
Oh my God.
Like, I don't think, like, if this was Code Orange that said that, they wouldn't walk out of that festival.
If this was Machine Gun Kelly that said that, would we have ever heard the end of this?
MGK's headlining next year.
Download Festival drop sponsor Barclays Bank after pressure from multiple bands, including Enter Shikari, Scowl, Ithaca, Zulu, Speed, and more. This was inclusive of artists dropping off of the festival entirely. And more, as I mentioned earlier, due to Barclays' financial involvement with Israel. Marcos, so this started with there were a handful of bands. It was like Scowl, Zulu, Speed. They were all like, we're done. We're not playing this shit. Like either Download drops this, which they're not, or we're not going to play. So we're just not going to play. And they scheduled the show. There were a handful of other bands. And then later, right before the festival, it was we're talking 45 minutes before doors. Enter Shikari posted a message and we sat down with Download and we said, get rid of these fuckers, or we're going to have a problem. And Download actually cut ties with Barclays, which I think is actually, I always feel like bands have the power to put a lot of pressure on these festivals if they, for example, didn't want another band to play. I remember this happened a little while back with what's that 2-piece band that was in the fucking movie with a robot? You remember this?
Real Steel?
No.
With the robot?
No. It was the District 8 guy, and then he made a movie with a robot, and then this. I think they're rappers,
oh my
kind
God.
of. Come on, help me out here. I know you're almost there. Please. They got
Die
that.
Antwoord?
Yes. Like a bunch of bands. They just got together and we're not fucking playing a festival with Die. I can't remember what Die Antwoord did, but whatever they did, they were we're not playing.
Got some,
Problematic.
Yeah, not the greatest.
So they got their asses kicked off, and I'm actually surprised that doesn't happen more often, because I feel like there often is a lot of pressure around that one band that's on the festival that everyone's get their asses out of here. So to see bands actually kind of throw their weight around a little bit, and with all due respect to Ithaca, Scowl, Zulu, Speed, and many more, to see one of your headliners throw that weight around a little bit.
Yeah.
You appreciate it, right?
Clearly effective,
right?
And Enter Shikari, in a note that they released regarding Barclays getting removed, were a lot of this was happening behind the scenes for a while. These were conversations that didn't just take place that morning.
Right.
So while bands like Scowl and Speed pull out seemingly without those conversations with Download, there are other bands like Shikari that are out there sort of trying to explain and have that argument, and it seems like it was effective, and maybe it was a combination of both things. I don't really know, but I was just thinking, does this make you realize that a lot of the festivals you go to, their sponsors just aren't problematic? Or I just can't think of any time I've ever noticed a sponsorship for.
I would give a lot of credit to Scowl in particular, because they've put their money where their mouth is
Numerous times,
yeah. And they've kind of
what recently as well.
Right, they've kind of brought to light. I'm not sure if it was exactly South by Southwest, so I don't want to like cement that.
Maybe.
But they've kind of brought to light, to me, what would have otherwise remained like something I was completely unaware of, or like blissfully unaware of in some capacity.
Yeah. Well, even if I was like looking over the sponsors on this bill, like Barclays, like that doesn't click for. I don't know what that is.
But I mean, I am familiar with the name Barclays. Like that is like a famous bank or whatever.
Is it Barclays Center? Like, is that like Brooklyn?
I believe so. Yes.
It's like the same thing.
Yeah. So maybe you're more aware. You can't watch. That's precisely correct. I mean, it is interesting because I feel like we always toe this line between this ethical consumption under capitalism thing, where it's like, yeah, if I really wanted to do this, then I could also not shop at Walmart ever, and/or get fast food ever in my whole life, and/or get a coffee. Like all of these corporations feel like their hands are sort of like intertwined into some sort of like bullshit. But I guess something like the Israel-Palestine conflict is enough to really sort of like move these bands.
Yeah.
Anthony Fantano gave Post-Human Next Gen by Bring Me the Horizon a light 3. My voice almost cracked there. I was starting to get like
emotional.
Yeah.
No, what the fuck is Blood thinking, bro? I don't.
I mean, you tell me.
He gave Post-Human 1 like a fucking 8 or 9 out of 10.
He also
he doesn't see the vision. Like
more recently, he gave the new Knock Loose album a light 9. So by virtue of comparison, this does not bode well for Bring Me the Horizon. Is it over?
It's not over.
Okay.
It's never been less over than Anthony Fantano giving a scene band any sort of rating. It's nice when we get some sort of validation, but let's remind everyone, AOTY last year, Sleep Token, Take Me Back to Eden, I believe less. I believe Fantano gave that like a 2.
Okay. Yep. I remember that. Yeah.
Yep. So like, I don't know.
So you're saying this is just another this is just another day.
It's just another opinion.
This is another day where Anthony Fantano spits on the accomplishments of the alternative music scene, right? Just fucking turns a...
He is who we thought he was.
Yeah, precisely.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So this year, I'm bothered by this, which is good to hear. So I'm not going to sweat it too much, Marcus. Otto Woods of Water Parks has been accused of homicide. As always, every link you need in the description of this episode, including our socials, playlist, merch, and Discord. Subscribe to us on YouTube at SOTS Podcast YT, and leave a thumbs up if you're watching the video version of the podcast. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please leave 5 stars. Marcus, Data Discourse this week. Eric B. over on Patreon.com/SOTS Podcast wants to know, is $1,000 too much for a meet and greet, Marcos? This spurred from what a fan recently brought to light in that Travis Barker on this most recent One More Time tour headlined by Blink-182 is charging $1,000 for the meet and greet package. Now, I know what you're thinking. What does that include? A concert ticket? No. What else does it include? An autographed...
Actually serious this time?
Seriously, it does not come with a ticket. It includes an autographed Polaroid photo opportunity with Travis Barker. What? I think they got to fight for it, like Hunger Games or something. Yeah, like you get a chance to fight. They split you off into groups. Yeah, and you got to earn it.
All right, what other opportunities we got?
One Travis Barker meet and greet laminate. Opportunity... Once again, opportunity to get a flash tattoo from one of Travis's favorite tattoo artists on your leg or arm. Flash tattoo options will be available to preview and select on site at no additional cost. That's it.
How can you look someone who's paid that amount of money in the eyes and tell them that, like, once they're done with the meet and greet, if they've had their opportunity to have a photo with you, that they have to exit the venue because they forgot to also purchase a ticket or read the fine print in which it mentioned that ticket is not included is insane, bro.
I mean, I got to imagine whoever can afford $1,000 to meet Travis Barker is also tacking on the $110 ticket in the Ticketmaster cart and just getting the whole thing all at once. All right, so we're talking like a $1,200
I don't
plus fees, $2,006, maybe $700 experience.
That's one of the most insidious like practices in this scene that we have to get away from.
What?
Not in this scene, but in
What
music in
specifically?
general. Out of many of the things that are mentioned here, like specifically, if you pay a shit ton of money for a meet and greet, that should include the ticket. That should never not include the ticket.
I've been thinking about this.
There is no instance in which you should ever show up to a venue to potentially get a photo with someone, maybe not get it in this instance, and then also not get to go enjoy the show afterwards because you shouldn't have to spend $1,100 on this. You go into whatever general audience section there is, because that's your ticket. It's a general audience ticket that should be included, whatever. I'm not saying you get to have to choose B11 in section 17, right? General admission on the floor ticket, whatever, and $1,000 meet and greet, right?
Right. Now, listen, I personally am not arguing with you. I agree.
Okay.
Now, do you think there is some sort of Travis Barker fan who's not into Blink-182? He's thinking to himself, yeah, I'm going to go meet Travis Barker after. I'm going to go hit
really
that
big
Buffalo
into,
Wild Wings. I'm going to get out of here.
Real big into Stars and Stripes?
Yeah, I don't, maybe, or he's a fan of the Kardashians. I don't know.
No.
I'm just saying,
don't think
theoretically. I was thinking about this. I wonder if in this instance, it's like this is money that strictly goes to Travis Barker, so they don't tack on the ticket, which would then have to be dispersed and split amongst the band and all the members and all the touring crew.
I don't
and all
give a
that.
shit. Figure that stuff out on the back end.
Okay.
Don't make that the fans' problem.
Just asking the question.
I'm just saying it's so ridiculous that any amount of money, by the way, like if it's a 50, well, I mean, like maybe I guess the lower the cost of the meet and greet, like if you're a smaller band for whatever reason you're doing a meet and greet, it's $50, like maybe not, but like once you start getting in the territory of like $100 and above, 100% of the time that ticket should be included. 2 tickets actually. Fuck you.
Okay, a plus
2
one.
tickets.
A plus one.
Plus one.
Guest list.
Well, not quite.
VIP, you're saying.
To answer the question of our patron, though, I think so you and I have never paid for a meet and greet.
I will
and
also.
I think I'm at the point where I never will.
I will also say you and I are in a slightly privileged position where we've had the opportunity to both meet and talk to band
That's
members
a recent thing.
at $0 cost.
It's a recent thing.
Sure. That it's been the last few years? Sure.
Yeah, but like I wasn't like tripping
You're
over
saying at a
myself
younger age. You're
Warped
saying at a
Tour.
younger age we never did that. Yeah.
Yeah, like I think that time has also come and gone. And I understand, yes, place of privilege. We can, hit someone's DMs and go hang out with them sometimes. Very rarely, by the way, but that is a possibility.
Select people. Avenged Sevenfold.
Select.
Jordan
Orange,
Fish.
believe it or not.
Yeah.
Jordan Fish.
Yeah. Specifically. Just him.
But like, I just still fundamentally don't understand like meet and greets.
I can't in my mind also make peace with spending that amount of money to meet somebody. Like I guess I personally would just never do it, but I also don't want to be, maybe I do want to be a little overly judgmental. I really don't think you should pay $1,000 to meet anybody. That's just me.
Yeah, no, that's
and Travis Barker is
insane.
probably kind of a cool guy. And I also give a lot of leeway to somebody who survived a plane crash wanting to do fucking whatever he wants to do with his life. And if he wants to charge people $1,000,
no,
I don't give a shit.
Survive a plane crash, and then it's like
you get to charge people $1,000 to meet you.
Any amount of money, name it, you can charge people to go and meet. Also, does the rest of the band not exist? Like,
do you think? I don't know if they have
meet and greet.
I don't know if they have separate meet and greets. Like Tom's got one for like you get about a bargain, you get it for like $675. Hoppus is right around like the $750 range. Like I don't know. I did see. All I saw somebody on Twitter shared this, and it was started making the rounds, and like Somebody initially, how I saw is that somebody quote tweeted that person's tweet with like an interview that was done with Matt Healy of the 1975, where he was saying, in any instance where any band ever asks you to pay for a meet and greet, you should have to take the money in cash from them so you can look them in the eyes, which I thought was kind of brilliant.
Listen, Travis Barker survived a plane crash. He probably doesn't have an issue doing that.
Marcus, is the age of the cock star back?
Did it ever leave?
That's a good question. I feel like the meet and
I've
greet,
seen a lot of those Polaroid meet and greets.
the meet and greet for me has felt more has felt like it's had a bigger return more recently, maybe post COVID than it had in the past. But maybe that's just me personally. I think it probably intertwines a little bit with sort of like the harder it's been to make money on the road with rising costs as well. It's like I don't really like, if there are people who want to pay money to like meet a band, and like if we're talking market value and demand, I guess if the average band you and I like is $50 to $100, I guess Travis Barker might be $1,000 by virtue of comparison, right? He's playing stadiums with his band. Like, based on the demand, like, somebody probably ran the numbers and said, yeah, we can probably do $1,000 on this.
How much?
Do you feel good about it? Do you feel good charging people $1,000 to meet you? I don't know. I guess you have to make peace with that. I know I would never pay it. I won't even say hi to a band member when I accidentally pass them in the hallway.
I would never pay it.
That's me.
I could never charge it. But I was thinking about, what do you think the most expensive meet and greet?
Most expensive meet and greet?
That
It's going to be like Jared Leto or some shit.
No. That Sleep Token could charge.
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, when you
First meet and greet.
if I were to meet Sleep Token, I'd unmask him like Batman.
You'd get fucking electrocuted. You'd reveal another mask.
I'd get fucking tackled by the what do they call Sleep Token fans? Sleepies? What are they called?
Sleeper agents would
Whatever,
be.
yeah, sleeper
maybe
agents.
Something's there. Yeah.
But yeah, I'd unmask him. I'd be like, at his true identity, I'd hold up his fucking mask like this. Marcos, if you want to support the show, consider becoming a patron for exclusive content. Get the fuck this mic. I swear to God, bro. I swear to God. We stopped recording for 2 weeks. If you want to support the show, consider becoming a patron for exclusive content, the ability to submit questions to the show, and producer credits on all of our video content. Patrons also receive bonus podcast SOTS Deluxe. On this week's Deluxe, Marcus, we talk, you guessed it, Stand Atlantic's first metalcore song, Void of Vision's harrowing journey to release their new album, and Movement's first new music of the year. We got some heaters, Marcos. It's been a crazy 2 weeks. There's been a lot to talk about. Patrons can also submit suggestions for our weekly YouTube show, Ranking the Scene. On this week's Ranking the Scene, our YouTube exclusive show airing every Wednesday night, we bring albums from Pierce the Veil, Sleeping with Sirens, and Rise Against. You also get the ability to ask questions, Marcos, like Jake S., who wants to know, who has the best merch that seems worth the price?
Nobody, baby.
Nobody?
We are... All right, this is another entirely separate conversation, but like...
Okay.
As far as like, is anyone affordable anymore?
Is anyone affordable anymore? Of
Like-
course not. Of course not.
Like, the quality can be as nice as imaginable, but like, I still cannot get over the fact that buying a shirt costs $40.
It sucks, bro. And that's even when
From
the quality's
any
bad.
band.
The quality's bad, it costs $40. The quality's good, suddenly it costs you like $80 to buy a t-shirt.
Yep.
Now, $200 jacket.
I looked at it.
Yeah?
It went live today.
You thought
had
about
your,
it?
Your Teeth of God, extra
How close did you get,
garments,
really? How close
whatever.
did you get to the Sleep Token jacket? How close?
I clicked into it, and then I looked at like what sizes were available. Then I was like, nah. What am I doing?
Sleep Token has the
snapped out of it
best
fast.
merch that seems worth the price?
Sleep Token actually has mostly dreadful merch, which I think is like what a lot of people aren't willing to talk about. They've got like 2 or 3 good designs, most drops, and then you'll look at the rest of it and it's like, what the fuck is this band? Like, for a band
Sleep Token merch is not going to be wearing a
for a
mask after you do
band-
this to him right now.
that is like the peak imagery, visuals, all that stuff. Their merch is so fucking bad.
Wow.
Most of the
Okay.
time.
Oh, you really did come
And
back
there's
with
like a
hot
couple
takes.
of other bands where this absolutely applies to too, that I'm gonna like keep my lips sealed on, but you should know who you are.
Comfortable attacking sleep token, but not other beds. This is interesting.
Well, they're faceless. So.
Sure. Here's the closest answer I can give you. Now, I'm gonna be honest. For starters, I barely ever buy band merch anymore because I do think it is wildly expensive and I can't afford it. So I'm extremely picky. Ice Nine Kills has kind of got me cornered pretty regularly, where I would say I probably buy something from them more consistently than any other band at this point.
Cornered at knife point.
Yeah, that's precisely correct.
$80.
Yeah.
Their posters are like definitely on the affordable side, I think.
But I tend to like their shit.
Yeah.
Like I tend to like it. So it's like there's a combination there. Like they recently did that Nintendo Kills the Ninth or whatever the fuck.
Nintendo.
Yeah. And I picked up that vinyl in a fucking heartbeat, dog. I got a shirt too while I was there. I said, fuck it, whatever. So your answer is Ice Nine Kills. And your answer is not Sleep
That's
Token.
it?
It's not Sleep Token. That's the one for me.
Token.
You gave a non-answer.
Yeah, that's my answer.
Okay. Callie asks, someone famous, in quotes, whatever that means in terms of our scene, walks by and you genuinely can't stop yourself from saying something to them. Who is it? What are you going to say to them? I, Callie, typically do not approach artist celebrities in public when they are just doing regular life stuff, but there are a few that I would make exceptions for. For example, if I saw Ollie Sykes, I would have to say fucking something and would probably start talking before my brain had time to catch up to the speed of my mouth moving, and it would probably sound like this. Hey, hi, sorry to interrupt. Just have to say, the maid outfit, an absolute slay, inspired, never stop. Okay, that's all. Carry on. It's crazy. Callie literally took my answer.
Yeah.
It was the same thing. Ollie Sykes, got to talk about that maid outfit. Who's your seamstress? That's the first thing I'd ask him.
I guess the way that I look at this is how I used to look at it, like, at Warped.
Okay.
Like, there were definitely artists where like they were signing something and the line was short and I'm like,
Okay.
And then there were a lot of other bands where it's like even a long line and I'm looking at it and I'm like, I gotta shake this guy's hand. And I remember Warped of like, it might have been 2016 or 17. Spencer of Ice Nine Kills is one of those guys where you just see him at the tent and it's like, I gotta fucking say hi to this guy. Like, what am I gonna do?
You're right. I'm right there with you.
Say hi.
I'm right there with you. I remember Levi Benton was another one. It was like walking by us in like a crowd.
Yep. I actually remember you doing this with Garrett Russell as well from Silent Planet at Warped. You like dead on just went for the hug right away too. It was awesome.
It comes back to Warped a lot because I do feel like we had a lot more access to artists that were just sort of like walking about like in between sets or out holding signs, advertising an upcoming set or something like that.
Before,
or sitting at their tent literally selling their own merch and stuff like that.
Yeah. But before like the big break, just seeing like Youngblood walk around was like crazy to me that one Warped 2 was on it.
Right. Thinking of where they are now and how popular of an artist they are. Yeah. How about today? Is there anybody like today? I'm trying to think of the most recent one that happened. I remember like 5 or 6 years back, we went to see Bless the Fall and Boba Cod walked by us and both of us said, fuck all.
I don't remember that.
You don't remember that?
No.
Walked right by us on his way to the fucking set. Had like a drink in his hand. We said nothing.
On the way to the set?
We said
places to be.
nothing.
I mean, Sykes is definitely the one where it's like...
Yeah, but don't you think like the more popular, like the harder it is to stop and say hi to him? I feel like it'd be easier for me to say hi to somebody who's a little bit less like of a fucking huge celebrity, right?
Not wrong.
Like that's the hard part. It's like I remember when you and I were at that Bad Omens concert and Noah Sebastian was like 6 or 7 centimeters away, and I looked right at him and I'm like, I can't bother him. I just can't do it. I can't do it.
Because you and I are the kind of people where it's like, internally, I cannot just go and inconvenience someone else. Whether they view it as an inconvenience or not, I am interrupting them from doing something. And realistically, all I'm going to say is like a combination of great set, I love you, something stupid like that.
Sure. I also don't want to deeply embarrass myself, which I feel like is almost inevitable in every situation I'm in. Yeah, I agree with you. Katarina DW asks, what's the furthest you ever traveled to see a concert? Currently, I am actually contemplating going to the UK from Tokyo this autumn to see Black Veil Brides and Creeper at Wembley. But to be honest, I probably won't. Katarina, yes, go. Do it. You only live once, and so on and so forth. And that's Wembley. It's huge. It's big. I say you have to go. And report back. Let us know how it was. Like, we're holding you to it. Yeah.
Every couple of months, if you check like our text messages, it's always, dog, did you see who's headlining Slam Dunk? We're going this year.
Yeah.
And then that time comes and goes. I don't think I've ever traveled for a show.
Furthest I have ever gone.
Like 2 hours is the worst.
So we're both from like Massachusetts.
We're in like A markets. Well, like Boston is there.
Yeah.
Like most of the time something is hitting us.
But distance wise, what I'm trying to say is that like the furthest I've ever drawn.
You've hit like the Big App.
Yeah, I've gone to New York. New York is the furthest I've ever gone. Like Massachusetts to New York. That's it. Which honestly was like a one-time thing. I'm pretty sure I won like fucking free tickets, which was crazy. To see Anberlin, who we're talking about later in the news.
I remember,
which to me isn't even really that, but that's like 4 hours. Like you're talking like continents here. So, but like virtual comparison, like mine's really embarrassing.
Fair enough. I remember I won tickets to go see. This is like in high school. Vanna is playing Maine. Which is like 3.5 hours, 4 hours away if you like look up the venue. And then like this is an absolute punk giveaway, and I'm like the first to comment. I used to do these all the time.
Yeah, I won my Anberlin tickets from Absolute Punk. Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck yeah. And then like realistically, you look at what has just occurred, which is like it's a school night.
Yeah.
I can't drive.
Yeah.
Like, all these other and then like 5 minutes later, I'm just like, I'm a pass actually, guys. But thank you.
Insane.
So that could have realistically been the farthest I would have traveled, but no, like we haven't.
Haven't you literally been to Maine for a concert?
I mean, I guess.
What do you mean you fucking guessed? Like the answer is yes. So you've actually done this.
I saw The Used and fucking Pierce, and then I saw one of the Trinity of Terrors.
Right. So nothing of actual like value. Like we've never actually like crossed multiple states to go to a show, though we did end up in Chicago during Lollapalooza and did not attend, so that kind of feels like close. Alex F asks, just out of curiosity, I know they aren't really in the scene, but have you guys checked the Billie Eilish's album Hit Me Hard and Soft? Curious to hear your thoughts. Marcos?
I did listen to it recently.
Oh shit, I didn't actually expect this. I have not heard it.
Super for me.
Oh no.
Really like a lot of Billie's songs.
Bro, you have no taste.
Like listening to this album, it's like I really like Billie at times, and then other times, especially like when things are quieter and more vulnerable, I just tune out so quickly.
Okay, not into quiet and vulnerable. Got it.
I mean, it was like a good, more emotional album. Like it's not bad by any means, but is it something I've found myself eager to listen to again once it ended? No, not at all.
Let me get the Anthony Fantano score on Billie
3.
Eilish. I'm gonna pretend this question was just out of curiosity. I know they aren't really in the scene, but have you guys checked out Chapel Rowan's album, The Rise and Fall of Chapel Rowan? Curious to hear your thoughts. As a matter of fact, I did listen to it.
The Rise and Fall of a Midwest Princess.
Fuck.
Put some goddamn respect on Chapel Rowan's name.
God damn it. See, this is what I mean. This is why I don't open my mouth, because all I ever say is fucking stupid shit. I look dumb, dog. I kind of love Chapel Rowan.
Chapel Rowan's fucking good.
It's so insane, dog. I've been singing Pink Pony Club for like 4 days now.
I haven't heard it. I don't think I've heard it.
What do you mean?
I've heard the big ones.
That's the song.
I've heard the songs. No, it's not the song.
It's for me personally. That's the song.
It's the face to face. Everyone's seen the TikTok.
We gotta circle back on this because I think I need you to hear it. I think we gotta talk. I think we gotta review it next week. Heather R asks, "What concert are you excited to go to this year?" Marcus, there was a recent one that was announced. Fucking Polaris headliner with Bless the Fall.
It looks
fucking holy shit. Like
fire.
fucking holy shit. This is the kind of tour that Bless the Fall should have been on like 8 years ago.
I don't remember the name of the tour. I think it's like Summer School Dropouts.
It's just called Summer School.
Summer School, yeah.
Yeah.
So like Home Team, Scene Queen, Honey or Revenge, Magnolia Park. Like I just like, you look at that lineup and it's fucking insane.
I've heard a new Magnolia Park song, and it is so fucking gas, dog. You do not even know.
Save it for another time.
Can't talk about it, but it is very good. So there you have it. Jacob asks, favorite Bolivia album and why? Follow up. In a perfect world, could Chino Moreno pass as their full-time vocalist? P.S. Welcome back. Miss you, dudes. Miss you too, Jacob. Thank you.
I think the last one was really special.
100% the last one. It's a fucking if you remember, if you die to not die, what the fuck was it called?
Suicide Silence, yeah.
No, stop. They had like very similar sounding album names too.
Will you die
If you die,
you remember to let you die?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Banger of an album.
I did like Euphoria though.
I did like Euphoria too. I just feel like Bolivia's gotten better with each album. They're definitely one of those bands for me.
You and I don't seem to think though, like New Levels, New Devils is that Polyphia album.
Oh no, I really enjoyed New Levels, New Devils as well.
I think my rank is that last one, probably Euphoria, and then like New Levels after that.
Fuck. I might agree, but I think it's splitting hairs with Euphoria and
Sure.
New Levels, New Devils. If you die, remember
You Must Die.
put your car in park. Turn the oven
Did you
off.
turn off the oven?
Yeah. Oh wait, real quick. Chino Moreno passes their full-time vocalist. Nah. I don't think he could hack it.
I absolutely love again that Polyphia has
Deftones?
committed to whoever the fuck the vibe is for that
Yeah.
song is the vocalist.
Yeah, I like them not just like getting a vocalist. Scene Labs podcast asks, what's the worst concert experience y'all have had? Like, even if the music was good, but it had to do with another element of the show. For me, it was Blue Ridge Rock Festival 2021. This is going to sound weird. I'm getting a little jealous of people who went to Blue Ridge. You know, like they got a good story that I don't have. You know what I mean?
You're a big story guy.
This is like if like everybody went on like a field trip and like the bus almost crashed and then like the Jeepers Creepers monster show up
Right.
and then everybody lived and, it
And-
was
and
like
you were just
I was
like-
off that day, like I was sick that day.
Well, you were just like eating Rice Krispies, like watching just something on like the roll.
Yeah. Like something
Rolling
that happened that
television.
really sucks, but it's all like anyone ever talks about anymore. And it's like I'm like, oh yeah, I heard that was bad.
Right.
It's like yeah, you weren't there though. You weren't there.
Mr. Johnson died.
Yeah. Fuck, I can't believe you missed that. It was like it was crazy. You weren't there. You weren't. It's like
you
Blue
weren't
Ridge. It's
there.
like I wasn't there. Like I feel like I don't get to have an opinion. Like I want to have an opinion, but I wasn't there. It's not fair. They're gonna run it back one last time, and I'll show up and I'll be like, God, this sucks. It'll be the only one that goes, well, this is terrible. They ran out of
It
chips.
won't be as fun. It won't
Yeah.
be as fun.
Yeah. Marcus, worst concert you've ever been to?
Crowds can really, really take me out of a show.
Yeah.
And I just remember being so unhappy the entire night with the I Prevail crowd the one time we saw them headline.
Wasn't your people?
Was not my people. This is like 2017 or 16.
We came as Romans. The word alive is support. Skip the fate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like loaded, but like the crowd was just ugh. I didn't like the people I was near.
Interesting. It was too Worcester for you.
It was too Worcester. That could have been part of it too.
Yeah. Worst concert I've ever. Worst concert.
We're talking like worst sets. Like I've got so many different ones I can name.
You been disappointed a lot?
I'll always remember how long that Harvard set felt like when waiting to see a lot like Birds perform.
Wow.
one
You'll never let
time.
it go, huh?
I will never let that go. It was so bad. Also, again, as cool of an opportunity as it was for that artist, A. Williams ahead of Sleep Token was such a nightmare because everyone was just waiting to see the band that hadn't toured in that state or that country for 4 years.
I've heard a lot of complaints about Empire State Bastard, their most recent headliner as well. I'm really annoyed that other people are going to get Bill Murray,
It's so
which would be my
unfair.
fucking dream
So
lineup.
fucking unfair.
Andrew W asks, when y'all getting to a Scram show? Andrew, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I barely get to the shows I'm supposed to go to. I'm not making it out to a Scram show. The only way I'm getting to a Scram show is if it's by accident. Like I go to walk into a Chili's, but it ends up like it was one door over and I'm at a Scram show instead. Like this is the only way it's happening.
That is the one instance I can picture a Scram show happening around us, by the way.
Yeah.
Like it's just next to an Applebee's or a Chili's.
Right. It's like this place is something else that went out of business that's like in between the Chili's and like a CVS.
Correct.
And they're throwing a Scram show. Marcus, Chris S asks, after not being aware of their game, did you wind up checking out the new Rarity album, Lower Feeling? If so, did it live up to expectations, if any? Marcus, did you check it out?
No, I had to go listen to Billie Eilish and be deeply disappointed with that experience.
I did check it out.
You did.
I really didn't love it as much as I hoped to. I still think that I don't remember the exact name of the song, but it's like "Who Gives a Fuck" is one of the best songs I've heard all year. I absolutely adore it. I don't think the rest of the album was like the same vibe as that song, but like I enjoyed it. It's just like I came in there and I'm like, this is a brand new band I just found. This is a new song and I absolutely love it. And the rest of the album didn't quite measure up, but I'm not going to hold it like too heavily against them. It was enough to get me to check out the whole record, which I think is important. Marcus Brandon K asks, y'all fuck with Joey Valance and Bray? So I had to look up who this was. Per Wikipedia, Marcos. Joey Valance and Bray is an American hip-hop duo consisting of rappers Joseph Bertolino and Braden Luge. They gained widestream internet recognition thanks to their breakout song Punk Tactics from their self-titled album. Marcos, nothing?
I'll check it out.
Yeah, we got homework.
No, nothing.
Punk Tactics is a song that's got you like curious, right?
It's something.
Curious. It's like a name. It's the name of a song. Caillou asks, if you were to, final question here, compete in an Olympic event, what would it be? Marcus, I've been thinking about this one ever since I read this question, and I think it'd have to be some easy shit where I could just kind of like clean. Long jump.
I don't know if I see it.
I just like, if we're talking easiest Olympic sport, like jumping, no problem. Easiest shit I've ever done in my whole life.
I don't know if
would absolutely wipe the competition.
Yeah.
Like, y'all don't even know. I've been practicing for years. My whole life, honestly. I think I could put up numbers. Like meters.
Mm-hmm. In school, in like middle school, when I was a baby,
Yeah.
we did something called outdoor education, and you went to like a camp, and you learned to do like fucking like rock climbing and shit. You also learned how to shoot fucking arrows.
This is the stupidest shit I've ever
And
heard.
turns out I was okay at that.
You were good at arrows?
I was good at like
You were a little Katniss
a
Everdeen?
little bit of a Hawkeye.
Sure. All right, so there you have it. If you want to ask a question, patreon.com/SOTS podcast. You can sign up for as little as $3 a month. Marcus, let's get into the fucking news. Brought to you by Shibori Threads, the clothing label of the alternative music scene.
The news.
21 Pilots have released the official music video for Paladin Straits.
Can't be sure that I'll make it, even though I'm past the point of no return.
This is the final track on the recently released album Clancy, and the last music video 21 Pilots had to release to complete their vision of delivering an official visual companion to every track on the record. The Click wasted no time in gleaning as much information from the hidden meaning perceived to be attached to its release on r/21 Pilots. The top thread by Transisic proclaims cliffhanger is real. Kevin Batt speculates in their thread, Clancy, Ultimus, Capitulus, 25. Clancy, final chapter 25. We learned about this at the fan premiere exhibit at the time Clancy released at the beginning of it all. 21 Pilots tweeted this morning that the video of track 13 is releasing today at 3 p.m. Eastern globally. There's a couple of interesting things here. This clearly indicates PS is not the final song, not the ultimate chapter. It's track 13. They speculate further.
Is this speculation that it's a double album?
They speculate further that a second half to Clancy will drop soon, Marcos. Today's PS music video is 5 minutes and 24 seconds long, which was the release date of Clancy. But the actual PS song, Paladin Straight, on the record is 6 minutes and 28 seconds. We have already speculated 6:28 could be significant. It's a Friday. Music releases on Fridays. Will the second half of Clancy release on June 28th? Marcos?
I could only see it being a deluxe.
If 21 Pilots drop an additional album or a deluxe version of the record, it will follow what has been an incredible release thus far, which found the band charting in third on the Billboard Top 200 albums chart with an equivalent 143,000 units, which, for comparison's sake, was more than the combined total of the latest albums from scene juggernauts Fall Out Boy and Paramore. The Clancy World Tour kicks off this August in Denver, Colorado. 21 Pilots currently stand at just over 34 million monthly listeners on Spotify. Marcus, I want to start at the very top. What did you think of the brand new music video for Paladin Straight?
What did Brendan Urie once say? Big three? Emo? It's just me.
Okay, sure, yep, uh-huh.
Emo Trinity is dead, bro. Paramore can't sell shit. Fucking Fall Out Boys, they're garbage. They can't sell shit. 21 Pilots putting this entire scene on their back, putting the entire Emo Trinity on their back, dragging this dead weight up to the highest of the charts. Good for them.
Me not knowing anything about the Kendrick Drake beef. 21 Pilots said, not like us. Not like us.
Not like them.
Again, thoughts on this new music video?
Deeply disappointed.
Oh, no.
Deeply disappointed.
Explain, please.
I am trying so hard to give my all
Sure.
to 21 Pilots,
Yeah.
to the click or what have you.
Yeah.
And I'm really, really trying to get invested.
So what went wrong?
In all of this and just
Sure.
like
What happened? Come on, just be honest with me.
Where to begin?
What,
I don't know where to begin.
where did it all go wrong
I don't
for
know
you?
ultimately, I think that the entire 13 music video thing was not what we were promised, and I think it was it wasn't as cool as what I think we were initially
Your
promised,
expectations were significantly higher than what was delivered.
right? And then this video, first of all, you get the cliffhanger, which I didn't appreciate. I want Paladin Straight to be the last song.
You're pissed that Blurry Face is going to continue. You're upset.
I am. I absolutely am. Fucking stick to your word. I
You
don't
said
like being
Endgame
surprised.
it should have ended there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now we're bringing back RDJ. Fucking Iron Man's not dead. I don't know what we're doing anymore. I also am not. I think that like the scale feels so fucking poor for what this story is trying to tell us is happening. You go and watch this video and it feels like it's 12 guys versus 12 guys fighting in a field, and then Tyler Joseph 1v1ing a bunch of fucking popes, and like I feel like we were promised so much more. Like, you don't even have the fucking scaled and icy dragon coming in Games of Thrones style and just like setting people on fire.
Where's Ned?
Where is Ned is a great question.
I feel like I'm a little less bothered by this video. I think a lot of the visuals are very strong, very compelling. I think a lot of the costume design is very strong, very compelling.
Visually, I disagree in that I feel like go back to fucking Vulture era or whatever the fuck it was called. Trench. And I feel like we were filming a lot of
I feel like
shit.
there's some of that in this video, as a matter of fact.
I feel like we were filming a lot of shit on location, and this one looks like green screen entirely, and it bothered me.
I mean, that's fair, but there are some moments of that green screen that I think are kind of powerful. Like when Tyler Joseph is climbing, he's scaling this like massive like
Sure,
wall,
the
and
unrealistic
it cuts,
stuff,
and you kind of see
sure.
like
But him
the
sitting
battleground.
on like the cliffside and all of that clearly just being a stage, like, I don't know. I was just disappointed in it all. I'm not happy with it.
Okay, it was a little hard for you to buy into the fantasy overall.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate. Did Paladin Straight as a song on that album in particular stick out to you? I can't remember.
I still think it's a great song and
Okay.
a great album. But as far as like visually,
You
what
feel
we've
unfulfilled.
delivered
You feel unfulfilled.
across all of the music videos, including this one, very unfulfilled.
I'm also getting the impression from you that you're also not interested in a theoretical double album.
I'm not interested in the idea that someone thinks another album could drop in 628 because I don't think it's realistic. When clearly this band is worried about how they chart and willing to push an album because something like a Billy drops. I don't think you surprise drop another full album after the fact. I think a 628 is a deluxe at best.
And we've seen a lot of bands do this recently where they kind of follow up their album with a couple more tracks and then sort of like help propel it back into the limelight and maybe
I think a deluxe is
feed
okay.
more streams into those numbers, right? I think a deluxe makes a little bit more sense to me as well. Like maybe like a couple more songs that are, theoretically a way to end and begin the next story, right? Though I don't know that 21 Pilots wants to introduce any and all of that before they even go on this Clancy World Tour.
Good point.
So it is interesting. I do like, though, that 21 Pilots still does this drive this type of conversation, this style of speculation, because like it keeps everything around this band very exciting. And I think it's also why we see them perform so well, because they still generate a lot of enthusiasm within their fan base that I just don't think, you know, maybe by virtue of comparison, bands like Paramore and Fall Out Boy are still doing at this point in their career.
Yeah, that's fair.
Moving on. Bring Me the Horizon have released the official music video for Top 10 Statues That Cried Blood. This track comes off the band's recent new release, Posthuman Next Gen, which sold an equivalent 18.7 thousand units upon its first release, Marcos. I believe it charted like in the top 25, maybe? Top 10 Statues That Cried Blood currently sits at number 6 on the Billboard Hot Hard Rock Songs chart. There's like a smattering of Posthuman Next Gen songs still in the top 25. Like they've got quite a few. They're kind of like, they've got that Bad Omens run like now where it's just like 4 or 5 songs are just sort of all hanging out in there, right?
Good. Deserved.
Ollie Sykes, speaking on the new video per Rock Sound magazine, Statues dives deeper into the world of Posthuman. The video continues the exploration of what it means to be a human in an age where technology can alter our very nature and gives keen-eyed fans more lore to dive into and discuss on their quest for uncovering the full post-human lore. Marcus, you have to wonder if a band like Bring Me the Horizon is taking a note from 21 Pilots and their success. Additionally, Ollie Sykes spoke with Hannah Ewins for Rolling Stone UK on his struggles recording the new record and the dissolution of his relationship with Jordan Fish, and ultimately what led to the delay of the record. There's quite a bit here, so buckle in, everybody. Not really, to be honest, Ollie says. It was less about creative things. We just found ourselves as a band not in a good place. I don't want to say too much. There's not really any exciting story here. I'm not going to sit and go, oi, creative differences, and we all left on good terms, and we wish him the best, and all that bullocks, because at the end of the day, any breakup is never as simple as amicable terms. There was nothing particularly juicy. It just got to a point where it wasn't working anymore for us. His time in the band had to be done. It just had to happen. This realization had been slowly growing in Ollie Sykes for a long time, chimes in the writer, Hannah. He is clear that this wasn't a rash decision. I don't want to badmouth him or be negative towards him because he's a good person and he's a great artist. Nothing happened between us that we'll never talk again or we couldn't collaborate in the future. Nobody died. Nothing really bad happened. It's been a fucking journey. It's been a fucking journey. There have been ups and downs. I've been sat there, head in hands, going, what have I done? What am I going to do? But ultimately, it was the best decision for everyone, Jordan included. He's going to go do fucking amazing things and make a lot of bands a lot sicker. I never really worried about not being able to do it without him, concludes Sykes. I worried how much harder it was going to be without him. And I said that to him. But I know what I want, and I have a clear vision every time. We'll get it one way or another, and I'll do whatever it takes. I don't care about who we'll have to ask, who we need help with. If we're not capable as a band to do it, we'll always get there. I'm not worried about it. Can we do it? It's more, how are we going to do it? He talks a bit about the connection he lost with the band and not realizing at the time when drummer Matt Nichols told him how bored he was recording, why that was, and how disconnected the rest of the band had become from the process. I thought this bit from the story was particularly illuminating in the situation, Marcus, and this will be the last thing from that interview. Rolling Stone UK, if you want to go check that out. Near the end of Fish's time in the band, Sykes says he didn't even want to go into the studio room to write with him. I completely lost my passion to do it, and that's why the album hadn't come out, because I did not want to go in the room. I just wanted to get this fucking record done. I just wanted it to be over. I was just so miserable. After Fish left and Sykes, Nichols, guitarist Lee Melia, and bassist Matt Keane started writing the outstanding 50% of Next Gen, Sykes felt elated. He looked around and saw the rest of the band happy and having fun. Bring Me the Horizon currently sit at 15 million monthly listeners on Spotify. Marcos, so much to chew on.
This town wasn't big enough for this many bad bitches is the problem, Sam.
You're right. You're right. It's a baddie overflow in the Bring Me the Horizon camp. We're going to take it all the way back to the top, Mark. Let's talk about this brilliant new video for Top 10 Statues That Cried Blood, what is ostensibly like the 7th fucking single from this album, albeit one that came after its release. What'd you think of it?
We're going lore for lore, bro. Bring Me the Horizon wipes the fucking floor with 21 Pilots.
Okay.
It's not even particularly close, okay?
Okay.
It is insane how much more invested I am, not because I think that it might be a better song or whatever. I am in this video alone, in the video for Kool-Aid, in the video for Die For You way back in the day when we got that. How much more lived in that universe feels than any of this young adult fiction we're getting from 21 Pilots that I think continuously just does not hit the level I needed to hit.
You're much more bought into this universe is what I'm hearing. Okay.
Yeah.
What is it in particular that really stood out to you about this video?
There was a butterfly and it was flying around.
Okay. So you're a man of simple tastes.
And there was a motorcycle guy and he was topping over the band a bunch.
Sure.
There's a lot of cool shit. Just a lot of
it was very visually stunning, to be
Yeah.
honest. It was done very well, and it was like
You had
for all
more
of
than
its
20
CGI
people.
and animated green screen nonsense, it did feel a little bit more believable.
you had more than like 20 people in the background. You had fights that were more
You had a
interesting
lightsaber
taking
battle.
place.
You had a lightsaber battle.
I didn't see any shit like that in the fucking Battle of the Bastards or whatever in that last 21 Pilots video.
Sure, that was one aspect of the 21 Pilots video that I personally did feel a bit underwhelming, is that we finally like have this big climax and everybody rushes in at each other and the camera cuts away as quickly as humanly possible to avoid any of the action, which is a little frustrating.
That's what I keep coming back to, is like, okay, this is your big finale. This is supposed to be like the one fucking continent in the world, and it's a battle of 40 people.
You wanted like a 14-minute video with dialogue. You
Yeah.
wanted like little character development. You wanted a death. You
I
wanted
want the city to feel
you didn't
like
want
a
Josh Dunn to
city.
make it out of that battle alive, right? You
I
needed
wanted everyone
stakes.
dead. Yeah.
And then ultimately, Bring Me the Horizon kind of gets away with murder because they do like 1/100th of all of the things that 21 Pilots does, but because their aesthetics are really cool, it just sort of doesn't matter overall.
21 Pilots has cool aesthetics too.
Okay, but this is strictly a performance video in
no
all
one's a
capacity,
robot.
just surrounded by a lot of neat sort of ideas, right?
I think that's part of it too, is like that last 21 Pilots video, not just directly comparing these two. Like, that's not what I want this to be, but like,
But it's the only direction
the situation
you
we
can take
find
this. Sure.
ourselves in. I think like watching the band actually perform outside of like Tyler just mouthing the words here and there would have been so much cooler than what we got.
I think overall, the thing that probably stood out to me the most about this video was just the makeup on the individual band members just being like incredibly like well done, like this sort of like mechanical cyberpunk style. Ollie Sykes has got like one fake eye, like fucking Lee's over there with like metal fingers and shit. It was just very neat overall. I think whoever directed and filmed that music video, produced it, is just an absolute visionary. And I can't wait for them to get their hands on more bands in this scene and sort of do that for them as well. 21 Pilots potentially included. How do you feel about this Rock Sound UK stuff and all of the Jordan Fish of it all? Does this just feel like we're sort of being told the same story over and over again, but just getting slightly more details each time around?
We are, but it is still not that illuminating when it's all said and done, because I still fail to understand what the problem with writing with Jordan was. And if a lot of it was at like the subconscious level, knowing the rest of the band is not happy with their role and knowing that Jordan might be, and I do not think that Ollie's blameless in any of this.
I don't think that Ollie implies that he's blameless in any of this. This
Right.
was a full article, by the way, and I only grabbed some choice bits out of it. He did speak a little bit about sort of how he came into this album sort of like post-addiction, knowing he wanted to write about, but then sort of like assuming this sort of new, and I'm like semi-quoting here, like assuming this new addiction by, you know, sort of getting really deep into this album, but then sort of like the sort of the working style of him and Jordan clashing a lot, where Jordan is a very by the books, by the calendar
So I
type
think
artist.
it's more something like that.
And
really,
Ollie is maybe a little bit more of a creative type.
a vibes guy. Yeah.
Yeah, precisely correct. Now, certainly this did not stop them from creating a lot of like some of the most memorable material over the course of the last 10 years. Ollie Sykes did mention a lot in that same interview as well about this idea of having to prove himself, because he feels like Jordan Fish will always be credited as the individual that came in to Bring Me the Horizon at the point where they then went on to have the most success of their career ever. And now at this point with him leaving, Ollie has to prove that he was an important or integral part of that puzzle and can continue to do the same thing for the band that Jordan Fish theoretically did by stepping in back when he came on board.
Yeah, I don't know if like at the fan level that was ever something that most of like something we all shared. Like, I don't know. I always looked at it as a two-headed beast towards the end of that relationship, because I think it was very clear that the rest of the band had sort of
Sidelines,
fallen,
benched.
has been like, background characters at that point. But especially aesthetically, visually, lyrically, all that stuff, that to me was always Ollie Sykes. But there certainly was a part of me, and I think you, that was concerned when Jordan Fish exited the band at some level, just because a combination of it was all we had known for a long time.
Without any of the insight provided from Ollie Sykes in these interviews, had this theoretical like situation not come to a head, then yes, I would have just continued to assume that these artists worked well together and they were putting out some of my favorite material to ever come out of the alternative scene, period. So yes, I would have continued to probably have been pretty content.
Yep.
Which is to say that I was also fairly content with everything that Jordan Fish worked on that is on this album as well, right?
100%. Like, Jordan Fish went out on some really strong BMTH tracks.
Exactly. Poppy has dropped new single, New Way Out.
They push and pull me down, and I'm forced to face who I've become. The silence screams so loud.
The song follows up what has been an explosive year for Poppy after collaborations with Bad Omens and Knock Loose have topped the charts. The track was co-written by, you guessed it, ex-Bring Me the Horizon member and hot commodity Jordan Fish, as well as ex-Fever 333 and co-member of exciting new project House of Protection, Stephen Harrison. According to an interview with Spin Magazine, Poppy has been continuing to work on new material with them both in between touring after having considered this first experience, New Way Out, a success. Poppy was quoted as saying, "Between Jordan and Steve and I, we don't just musically understand each other, but have a degree of compassion in similar ways. There will be times where I'll ask the guys, what do you think of this or that lyric? Jordan's like, okay, just go with whatever you feel. And Steve is the guy that's like, oh yeah, that is really good. Or no, not that. It's always kind of checking the temperature with everyone else and having a safe space to bounce around and float things by." Poppy will be opening for 30 Seconds to Mars later this July alongside AFI and Kenny Hoopla. She currently stands at 3.2 million monthly listeners. I don't know that I wrote it here.
Bring me at 15
I don't believe
million.
I did.
Yeah.
No. I did mention that. I did mention that. No, I'm talking about Poppy. There was an impression in that Spin Magazine interview that she is working with Jordan Fish and Stephen Harrison on a new album.
Okay.
Like not just like a one-off, like, or
Well, you
two
said
one-offs,
sort of like continuing to write between tours with specifically those two.
right. And the impression is that is on a full-length album, not just like individual singles.
Fair. I don't know if I like this as much as most of the material off that last album.
I'm glad you said it, because it's not that I don't like this song, because I do, and I think at this point I have a level of adoration for Poppy where like
It's
my
increased this year.
floor of appreciation is like pretty high.
Yeah.
So just about anything she puts out, I'm sort of fascinated with, and it helps that her aesthetic presentation is always like peak. But I don't feel that I had as strong a reaction to this as I did anything off of that last album. And or Van and Suffocate, which I guess are sort of a separate conversation.
Yeah, I don't look at those the same way.
It's not really quite fair to compare those.
But no, I'm right there with you. This song is okay.
My favorite moment of the song is the Poppy drop at the very beginning, because I like the sort of quirky, ironic self-awareness to
It's
it
the
all.
J-Fish touch.
It's like the thing that everyone else is doing, but somehow Poppy, in an instant, made it feel like her own.
Yeah. Honestly, of the songs I know Jordan Fish has worked on that I'm under the impression I've heard since the departure from Bring Me, I think this might be my least favorite of the bunch.
What do we have? What do we have? What do we
more.
have? We have the Architect song. What else do we have?
Was House of Protection that hymn?
House of
too?
Protection, which
That
was-
was a cool ass song.
House Protection was actually my favorite thus far.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I might be with you, but I don't know that there's a lot of value in that 3-point
I know.
triangulation of things that Jordan Fish has touched. And like, ultimately, I really would just sort of compare this to Poppy's personal output, and I will say that I still think we're leagues ahead of Flux. Like, don't get me wrong.
Totally.
But it is a slight, I don't want to say disappointment, but a slightly underwhelming new single. That being said, I'm deeply curious to see where we go, because like on paper, I still love this. Like on paper, this still seems perfect to me. Like
Cool
I can't
video.
wait.
It is an okay song, but again, it's just fine. But yeah, overall,
This
I'm
collaboration, like this
interested.
combination of artists, for me, just works really well. So it's kind of like unfortunate that this track in particular didn't connect with me as much as I hoped it would. 7 hours after Violet released their debut single, Paradise. The new project from System of a Down bassist Shavo Odagian also features Left to Suffer vocalist Taylor Barber, American Idol alumni Alejandro Aranda, aka Scary Pool Party, and Winds of Plague drummer Josh Johnson. Per the press release via Revolver magazine, the band have been working on a full-length record which will be released through 1336 Records, which is an imprint of Sumerian Records created by Shavo. Their debut song came from Shavo wanting to do something super heavy but melodic in order to return to their roots. I steered away from anything heavy because of System of a Down being heavy. Once I got started with 7 Hours After Violet, I had to let go of that. I said, let me go with my gut and do what I'm best at. For the first time ever in my career, I just said, as long as I love it, I don't give a fuck what anybody else thinks, and that was extremely liberating. 7 Hours After Violet is the result. It's my favorite thing I've done since System, and I can't wait for the world to hear it. Ahem.
Is System dead?
System's not like dead, but like, they just don't record new music.
All
They
right,
just
all
don't.
right.
They don't. I don't know if there's a lot of inner turmoil with that band. It's just like, they still play together. Like, they just played Sick New World,
Exactly.
right? But maybe they're kind of like in a little bit of like a My Chemical Romance era where they're just like, yeah, we're good. Like, we got
Fair,
enough
fair,
songs. We got 7 fucking killer set lists. The band will play their first show at Mayhem Festival, which makes its return as a one-day show in San Bernardino, California on October 12th. The festival will also include performances from headliners Bad Omens, as well as Architects, Poppy, Parkway Drive, August Burns Red, and more. 7 Hours of Violet. 7 Hours After Violet launched with just shy of 14,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. Are you a System of a Down fan?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, just check. What do you? Well, I don't
I
know. Of
think
course,
this-
like
I
every
think-
once in a while, you're like, I don't know. I've never heard a 3 Days Grace song in my life or some shit, and I'm like, oh, my bad. I shouldn't assume.
With some 3 Days Grace songs.
Okay, just checking.
Same with System of a
I
Down.
know how far back you go. I know you hate Slipknot, so sometimes it's fucking hard to tell with you.
System of a Down are 20 trillion times the band Slipknot are.
I'm gonna give you that. Actually, I will 100% give that to you.
Let's go. I love this quote talking about steering away from heavy because
Yeah.
System of a Down is heavy.
Yeah,
Because everyone forgets how low Serge Tankian's lows got, right?
System of a Down, one of these bands that's like forever perplexing that they ever reached the level of popularity that they hit.
True.
Like, they are so outside the norm of especially what everyone else was doing at the time. It's like, in some ways, it's like, oh, I understand why they're so popular because there's literally nothing else like them. But at the same time, it's like, can't believe this hit. I could not believe this hit.
This is a little more familiar, right?
Yeah.
Like this
Sure.
isn't breaking boundaries in the same way System of a Down
They get fucking weird with it a
did.
little bit though. I feel like the structure of the song is a little like surprising. Like at some point they just kind of like slow everything down and then just kind of like mumble sing. And it's like suddenly like Scary Pool Party is like taking over on vocals, which kind of caught me off guard. And I thought it was a nice change of pace. But overall, for me, the continual star here is Taylor Barber, who I think just is absolutely fucking like knocking the wind out of me with their vocal performance every time they take the mic.
Knocking the winds of plague out of you.
That's precisely correct. Yes.
I agree. I think this remains a very exciting project. I'm happy that we finally have a taste as to what it actually is or is supposed to be. And I'm eager to hear more.
This is a fun supergroup, right? Like this feels like a randomizer. Like you never thought we would have gotten these three bands in a room together, and like we did.
Yeah, it's an interesting super group.
That's precisely correct, Marcus. Anberlin premiere new song "Walk Alone."
So don't you walk alone tonight. It'll get better. Let these words always be your light. I promise that I would drive with you, bleed for you.
The track features new vocalist Matty Mullins of Memphis Mayfire, one of two tracks, which will feature on their upcoming album Vega, releasing August 2nd via Equal Vision. The album combines the band's last two EPs and then adds the new tracks featuring Matty on vocals. Matty took over after the indefinite touring departure of vocalist Stephen Christian. Drummer Nate Young on the inclusion of Matty. With Anberlin, there's been multiple eras of our career. This new era with Matty Mullins is one we couldn't be more stoked on. As all things, you never know how long this time will be, but we're sure going to lean all the way in and enjoy the hell out of this process. I know it feels like Mad Libs, doesn't it?
That was the first time it really hit me as to the situation we find ourselves in.
Right, precisely correct. The band will be supporting Hawthorne Heights this summer on the 20 Years of Tears tour alongside Thursday, Seosh and Icy Stars Cartel, and more. Anberlin currently hover around 871,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. Marcus, Anberlin are back-ish. I mean, I guess they've been back for a while, but they're back with a new face at the helm.
I mean, so I guess I misunderstand what has happened
Go
here.
ahead, ask questions.
Stephen Christian,
Christian, yes.
his indefinite touring departure
Yeah.
means that Matty Mullins now fronts this band at the studio level as well.
Yeah.
It's confusing and perplexing, both.
Yeah, because now they're putting out an album that is a combination of the last two EPs that they put out, which has Stephen Christian on all vocals.
Right, we have not gone and re-recorded those with Matty. Also,
I don't believe so.
I've heard one of those EPs and I did enjoy it.
Did you now?
I don't think I heard another, but I don't know which one of the
Which
two
was
I heard.
which? Yeah, okay, fair. That's good to hear, though.
Yes.
I feel like there was an Anberlin song that came out where you and I just sort of like took a step back and we were like, "Is this
Shit was
the
fucking
greatest?
amazing.
Were they the greatest to ever do it?"
Right.
And then I feel like I remember checking out that EP and being like, "Yeah, okay,
That was the best song. That was the best song
Thank
off
you.
it.
Okay,
But like
it was a very good song.
But like,
I wish I
as
could
far
remember the name
as
of it.
Anberlin being back, I remember hearing that song and thinking to myself, like, okay, this is why we came back. And now, of course, we're back, but we're not really back because Steven's both in and not in this band at all.
Is Matty Mullins a problem for you?
It's not that Matty Mullins is a problem for me, but two things I realize when I listen to this song are that it is refreshing to hear Matty Mullins in something non-related to Memphis Mayfire.
Interesting.
There is very clearly a different overall energy to that
He
delivery.
had some solo
and all
albums that had a
stuff.
very different energy for Memphis Mayfire.
Certainly an energy to him. So it's just nice to hear something that's very clearly not intended to be a Memphis Mayfire song.
I think it certainly helps that Matty Mullins has a very good singing voice when.
Whoa, that's the other thing.
Okay.
It is very apparent to me listening to hear that he's not, for me, as good a fit for Anberlin as Steven is. And I know that this is the first
Impossible
taste
comparison.
of this.
Impossible comparison.
But then when else could you make that comparison?
Yeah, but we're just saying is he a nice fit for them? He doesn't have to be better. He doesn't have to outdo Stephen Christian. That feels like an impossible task. You know what I mean? Like I don't think that's a fair level of pressure to layer on him. I think it's okay for him to come in and be like, "Hey, this is still cool." I think that's enough.
It is. It's cool.
It's exciting.
Do we officially have like the Stephen Christian like rite of passage though?
It's gonna kill you
like,
to say his fucking last name correctly, isn't it?
I don't know why.
Do we have his blessing?
Yeah, like, did we get his blessing officially?
I think we got his blessing, yeah.
It was just the other 4 guys who were just like, Matty, you're up.
I get the impression this is like a weird turn of events, right? Because it's like, I don't understand how they stumbled upon Matty Mullins. I'm assuming that they've all gone to the same church together and they were like, are you free for 6 months? And Matty Mullins just happened to be like, yeah.
That Christian band still exists.
It is crazy because I was thinking about this as we were watching this. I was like, did Anberlin, like a lot of bands who came up with them, denounce like their Christianity over the course of like the last 10 years? And I don't think they have. Stephen Christian in particular, I believe, is quite literally a pastor in his other career path. And I don't remember. Matty Mullins is a strange one because I don't believe Memphis May Fire is a Christian band, but that man sure did go out and make a whole ass Christian album in his free time. So I'm assuming that that is the connection between these artists that drove them to collaborate, because otherwise, like, I couldn't pinpoint exactly where on the fucking line chart they would have ever crossed paths. It's not like these bands came up in the same generation or anything.
It came to this band in a dream. God told them it should be Matty Mullins. That's your next vocalist.
Sure, you're making light. You're making light.
This video sucked.
Oh, fuck, Jesus
This
Christ.
video was garbage.
It wasn't garbage. It was too wholesome. It was too wholesome.
It missed the mark completely. It's a rare video, but it is the audition video that we see from bands, and sometimes that's audition to be in a play and it's not quite to be in the band. Other times it is audition to be in the band, and that's the case here. But it's just they filmed this video and forgot to put the funny in it. It
is missing the funny, and when you funny goes a long way. Funny goes a long way, and this just feels a little bit too PG funny. Yeah, this feels a little bit too like, you know, CBS sitcom put together of like compilation. Everyone's like good bed. Like, it's a little bit too high. Like, none of it really came together, which is unfortunate. Yeah, I think honestly, Matty Mullins is the one who kind of steals the show when he shows up. But I think it's just sort of the my brain trying to like make like peace with the fact that Matty Mullins is like the singer of Anberlin. Like it's just trying to like connect those two wires.
I do think it's funny the new identity he takes on when he's not in a metalcore band, which is like he's in like a full yellow suit essentially.
Did you see that other thing going around this week?
That could mean a lot of things.
Matty Mullins has been replaced.
Matty Mullins has been replaced.
Like literally?
Maybe.
Like with a copy?
Maybe.
People say he doesn't look like himself anymore. Saying his cheeks too full. His smoke too.
He smokes too tough.
Yeah.
He's not Christian
anymore.
It's
not the same Matty Mullins. Said the haircut don't line up.
Right.
So the beard's is not trimmed the way that he used to trim.
No, his teeth a little too white.
They're trying to get one over on us, and not today. That's Stephen Christian dressed up as Matty Mullins. They're trying to do like a fucking... Fever 333 hit us with new song New West Order.
I'm always going so hard to be like, ease up, down. Outside in the all black line, screaming 333 to the day we die. There's a fever coming. Let 'em know there's a fever coming. Pulled up outside in the all black line, screaming 333 to the day we die. There's a fever coming.
This is the now 4-piece project's second new song this year, following Ready Rock from earlier this February. Both songs are rumored to appear on the band's new album, tentatively scheduled for later this year. Vocalist Jason Butler shared the following for the press release via Louder Sound. And I quote, "There is an intersectional hotbed where the hood and hardcore meet, for pimps and punks alike to enjoy and celebrate their taboos. The intersection is beautifully represented in Los Angeles, and New West Order is an unapologetic exploration of my experience and a social variable growing up in LA that I think the world should also have the privilege of being exposed to. It is also the beginning of my West Coast gangster rock as a genre and a culture. The beauty in disparity and these nuanced diamonds forged from the pressures we experience in alternative commodities of all types against the background of our status quo, and particularly people of color. I spent about 6 years talking about how I felt about these governmental social systems and imbalances. Now I'm going to talk about why I feel this way and the experiences that shaped such ideologies." Fever 333 will be heading out on the Welcome to the Function tour later this October with support from Zulu, Move, Hugh, Click, and Bucky Sugar. The band currently claim approximately 513,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. Marcus, do with all this what you will.
All those openers just sound like like what the when you have like eyeshadow, like the makeup, like all the names of the different
Like shades?
yeah. I don't know.
So the openers to you sound like the different shades of the eye color
Just the
shadowing.
just like move and click. I don't know.
They sound like kind of like buzzy aesthetic words?
Yeah,
Sure.
a little bit.
Maybe they are.
Something doesn't sit right with me here, and it's that Fever 333. Initially, that band name existed.
You're not happy with fucking anybody this week. This is fucking brutal, dog.
Dude,
This is the fourth band in a
call
row. You're
ourselves
like, I don't know about this
Fever
one.
333 because there are initially 3 members.
Oh.
If we're gonna bring
saying
in
they should
an
be Fever
extra
444?
body, 444.
Yeah, okay, fair.
And like cool. Like
You know,
that
finally,
could be,
a fair
that's a
criticism.
cool new like thing you could explore.
Sorry to step
like,
on
those
you.
are angel numbers, right? So Fever 444.
Didn't
what does
realize
that
you had
mean?
something
Where are we
important to
going with
say.
that? I think it's a really good song.
This
Though.
song bangs.
It's
I
a
thought this was a fucking blast.
It's a cool video too. It's shot
I
very
fucking
well.
love the energy of this track. There are
I
so
love
many
Jason's
good shots in this
energy
video.
forever. Jason continues to be one of the coolest cornerstones of this scene. Very clearly always have something important to say, and I think that Fever 333 doesn't actually skip. I mean, they might have skipped. I don't think this is the first song as a 4-piece.
No, I mentioned earlier
It is?
in February that they released a track called Ready Rock. They also released Swing
This
late
is
last
so much
year.
better than Swing, at least.
You remember
minimum.
Swing. I knew you'd remember Swing.
I remember Swing for a lot of bad reasons. I didn't enjoy Swing. I did not
unfortunate.
like baseball, Sam. Swing, batter, swing, like immediately pulls me out of the song.
You're just hard
It's
to
a
please.
bad
You're
say. Fuck baseball.
Insanely hard to please. Like you said, a lot of cool shots in this video. Very bouncy song. There's a moment where like a choir voice comes up, like the choirs come in, they start like singing.
Back
I
half
think
of this
that
song
really
runs
great.
circles around the first half.
Okay.
Like I think that the band really
I don't know. The intro to this goes really
finds
crazy.
their footing in the back half of the song, in my opinion.
I think overall it was just very good. And I'm kind of happy to see a Fever 333 that is very good, and they got me very excited, and they can sort of like live in the same universe that I also have House of Protection, which I also really like. So, you know, maybe this separation ended up being the best for all parties. Graphic Nature have dropped new single Human.
'Cause I'm a different human when this kicks in. Oh, I'm a different human. Just let me in. It's getting harder and harder to keep a straight face. And I'll do it again, and I'll do it again, and I'll do it again.
New album, Who Are You When No One Is Watching, releases July 12th via Rude Records. It will also feature past singles Something I'm Not, To the Grave, and Fractured. Vocalist Harvey Freeman shared the following on the new track per Rock Sound. Human is about the selfishness that can rear its head when dealing with mental illness. It's about how I will often prioritize something new over something old, and I'll forget about what really matters to me in that moment. The band will head out on a headlining tour in the UK starting on July 15th. Graphic Nature currently holds just shy of 88,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. All right. It's one of these bands where I've seen their name pop up like a ton, and I'm like, have we ever fucking talked about Graphic Nature?
I've listened to them. I don't know
Yeah?
if we've ever talked
Yeah?
about them. Yeah.
I'm like, I'm gonna make sure. I'm gonna like make a point to check out this song and see if this is something I fuck with, and I fucked with it.
Okay.
And I fucked with it.
How hard?
There's a sample that they use as like the intro to this song, and then sort of like rears its head a little bit later on as well, and a few more other times throughout the track that I think just really like anchors the entirety of this song. And I sort of think that coupled with this sort of Garrett rap of the Color Morale style vocal delivery and the overall sort of intensity and like energy that's being brought to this song that really worked for me overall. Like I think there's some sort of like contrasts that are being like pressed against one another that are sort of like binding to make something really interesting for me.
Okay, I love that. Yeah, I'm excited for this album. I like generally everything about Graphic Nature down to the naming of songs. Except like To the Grave, like that's already a band name. Let's leave that one out.
Okay.
The name of this album is very like mysterious to me, outside of it just being a question. Very dark video, like aesthetically I'm all over Graphic Nature.
Aesthetics are strong. I do like the album title that sort of feels like it's playing at something bigger. Like, what is your
Sonically,
concept
it's
here? What are you
good.
getting at? Like, what are we tackling?
Yeah.
I love a heavy subject matter. Let's get into it. Yeah, so Graphic Nature hooked me with this one, and now suddenly I find myself excited to go back and listen to those other singles, and
And it's July
theoretically
12th.
be
So it's
excited
soon.
for that album.
Yeah.
That's exactly correct, Marcos. Let's review some records and get the fuck out of here.
The Breakdown.
We're going to kick off with Stigma by Wage War.
Feels like it's all a blur. It's so we get worse. And now it's killing us.
This is the Ocala, Florida outfit's 5th studio album, released the 21st of June via Fearless Records. Stigma consists of 10 tracks and is the much anticipated follow-up to 2021's Manic LP. In a press release, the band shared that, and I quote, "We made a record that is authentic and true to us, first of all,"
First.
notes rhythm guitarist and lead singer Cody Quistad. Secondly, it breaks boundaries sonically and lyrically and moves the genre forward. It's a statement. We're stepping out, breaking free from whatever subgenre we fit into and saying something. We make the music we want to make. Stigma is special because it resonates beyond the genre labels we've been often categorized with. End quote. But the press release does go on to share that the band not only nodded to inspirations a la Rammstein, Static X, Powerman 5000, but that they made a concerted effort to bust out the synthesizers in their writing sessions. But that, like in addition to that, and Buckle and Sam, that they watched movies in the studio, such as 1999's The Matrix, 1998's Blade, and 1993's Tombstone, among others, an activity which Wage War notes was a first for the band.
Oh, they didn't watch 1999's The Matrix, 1998's Blade, and 1993's Tombstone while recording Manic?
Apparently this band realized that it was all work, no play, or,
Okay.
or they stopped realizing, like sometimes you can just watch a movie in the studio.
Okay.
That's allowed. Cody would continue, and I quote,
This is the most insane press release I've ever listened to in my whole fucking life. Keep going.
"It was like a live mood board, if you will.
Okay.
We changed the lighting, watch a movie, and listen back. We were wondering, what could all of those 90s industrial nu metal bands sound like in 2024?
I'm going to give it to this band. And I'm going to stop here for just a very second before you continue and say that I had all of these thoughts in the back of my mind listening to this record without
Me
any of
too.
the context. So I think that speaks deeply to Wage War accomplishing what they set out to do, ultimately irrelevant of how you feel about it.
Agreed. And I'm also just having fun with this press release because I did not expect it to get this detailed.
I think that bands owe us more in the future on the basis of how much Wage War is giving us here.
Cody would continue to mention that they try to incorporate those riffs, those synths into their sound to make it fresh. I think we've established that.
Right, it's worth noting in particular that I'm less familiar with Tombstone, which I know as a Western, but obviously I'm deeply familiar with The Matrix and Blade, and that their soundtracks in particular do stand out, in a sense of being that, sort of techno-industrial nu metal.
Totally. And I quote here, "Cody and I have always been huge fans of industrial metal," adds, I guess, main vocalist, lead vocalist, Britain as well. 2 lead vocalists, I don't know what you want to call it. "We finally put the pen to paper and started writing this way. It was really natural for us." What a vibe, Sam. Movies in the studio. Writing things naturally. I should also note that Drew Folk returns as producer. That's 3 in a row for him, previously having worked on their last 2 efforts, Manic and Pressure. For whatever reason, if no one's familiar with Drew Folk, he's produced for dozens of other bands we cover on this show constantly. So this week I'm choosing to highlight Kim Dracula and Lil Lotus.
Okay.
Those are 2 artists
Those are
that
fun
Drew Folk
choices.
has worked with, right?
If
That's
I Die
cool.
First had a new song this week. Go check it out.
Not Drew Folk. I don't think. he
Sorry, you
produced
said
that
Lil
one.
Lotus, but Lil Lotus is,
Right, he
it's-
is, yeah.
the interconnectivity.
yeah, so here we are. That's this new album.
That's it. That's
Stigma.
everything. That's all the context you could possibly ever ask for, Marcos.
Anthony Fantano gave it a 1 out of 10.
Anthony Fantano did not. Anthony
'Cause he hates
Fantano.
metalcore.
Stop. Anthony Fantano did not. I'm
He
gonna
didn't
do a
listen
thing.
yet.
I'm gonna do a thing I haven't done in quite a while. I'm gonna pull out a couple notes I took for this.
Interesting.
I had things I wanted to say.
Floor is yours.
I spent the whole week with this album, so we got this one early. Thanks a lot to their team. And so I probably ripped this one like 9, 10, 11 times, like a lot more than I generally do
Easy.
listen to an album going into like this episode.
Easy one to rip through. Again, reminder, 10 tracks. I think it barely cracks 30 minutes.
Yeah, it's like 30,
honestly.
31. It's like right around there. Are you ready for what I wrote?
Yeah, floor is yours, man.
Wage War.
Is that 9 paragraphs?
It's not 9 paragraphs. Sweaty, grimy, a perfect bed for the more pop-centric songs that find themselves on this record. An incredible approximation of Wage War to date, as well as the modern metal scene, inclusive of elements of every end of the rock to metal spectrum, as well as a rugged, southern tinged sensibility. Marcus, you stop me at any point if you want to jump in here with a little bit of, it doesn't have to be a dialogue.
One thing I did want to immediately note is the fact that the band certainly did deliver on creating something fresh and new for them, in the sense that this is the first time in a long time where I listened to this and not once did I think about them sounding like Architects in any capacity.
That's an interesting thing to note, because I still also categorically feel that this does sound like Wage War in a way that I've come to know them.
No, fair. And granted, like, it's been a while since I really thought about those Architects comparisons, but for a long time, and in a lot of people's mind, I will address this, they were always the band that had Architects riffs. And I do not hear that whatsoever anymore.
No, not at all. They've certainly pushed themselves away from that. As a matter of fact, I would say they more closely align with the artists that they've mentioned earlier. We're talking about Rammstein or like Static X. Rob Zombie is one that came to mind while I was listening to this. Now, that's not all the songs all the time. And there are songs on here certainly that align themselves more with the sort of, like I said, pop aspects of like Pressure or Manic that we've heard in the past. Everyone's heard Magnetic. It's probably the biggest song off of this album to date. Blur has probably the biggest chorus on this record as well. It was the single dropping day and date with this record.
Hellbent's a sleeper, big chorus.
Sleeper big chorus, but less of the pop angle that something like Blur and Magnetic have. Fair?
More of a southern tinge to it for sure.
Absolutely. I wrote on here, Hellbent acts as a nice companion piece to Happy Hunting with a similar energy but a more accessible chorus. The perfect 1-2 punch of rock radio goodness. Happy Hunting, Marcos, I thought was this deeply silly, like, tough guy track that circumvents its shallow lyricism by acting as like a metalhead's anthem from the mid to late 90s.
No, completely fair.
I found that I walked away with this record thinking to myself, this is a really simple thing to digest, but if you sit there and like think about it, there actually is a lot to chew on. I found myself having more to say like in the back of my mind about this record than I did Manic, which is an album that I also really enjoyed.
Oh, I don't disagree with that at all. I think there's and a lot of it is not like just outwardly put out there into the world, but like on a subconscious level, definitely feel like I could chew on a lot less with Manic, and I'm chewing on way more with this record.
It feels like it's spurred in like objective opinion for like it asked me to like dissect what it is that they had done, and then I would find that what they had done wasn't necessarily overly complicated, but it was interesting. I thought a lot of the like choices on this record overall were interesting,
Well,
which I think made it a lot more fun to listen to than something like Manic, which I do think these records aren't like dramatically different from one another, but I do think this album like dives into like a couple different ends of the spectrum to just give it like a little bit like just like a little gloss that like sort of makes it pop a little bit more than that album did.
certainly a little harder to predict in a way that lends itself to a great album listening experience. Like, even just looking at these songs, I read a track title like Hellbent, and I'm like, man, that's got to be like the heaviest song on this album. And then it's like one of the catchier, more southern leaning tracks, and it's like, okay, so like I'm just consistently being surprised, and granted, they're not the biggest surprises in the world, and when you reflect on it, it's like, yeah, no, this makes plenty sense, especially if you look at this album as a whole. But like, especially on first listen, the fact that this song starts off with a song like The Show's About to Start, which has like, again, like heavy on the synth. This band is like spitting at certain points.
Nail 5 was very similar in that sense too. And you thought to yourself, well, maybe this band is going to take sort of this production style maybe one or two steps too far, in a way that generally I tend to enjoy for what it's worth, but in a way that maybe hardcore metalcore fans wouldn't appreciate nearly as much as I did. Yeah. And they completely circumvent those expectations as well. Certainly it helped that they dropped Tombstone ahead of this album, which is pretty much like, you know, as down and dirty as you can get with like a metal track.
That was the one inspired by Blade.
Okay, funny. Very funny.
I'm a little pissed that this band doesn't explicitly say
have like, a song called Blade, have a song called Matrix.
Well, right, because like Tombstone, it's like, okay, Tombstone. Also, I love that this band also very clearly like looked at the rest of the Fearless roster and be like, what's Einstein Killsman up to? Movies.
Very
interesting.
Funny. Very funny.
But also like I would have really appreciated in that press release being like, yeah, no, I mean, In My Blood, Hellbent, like that's off of Blade 1, 2, and 3 in a row. Like that's how those songs were born.
Right. Like you need to take it two steps. So you need a behind the music on exactly what aspect of the movie inspired the song.
The other movies we watched. What did we play games? Like what were we doing? I want the full fucking breakdown.
Mm-hmm. You got to assume they're like back there. They could fire out the Xbox 360. They're playing like Doom and like Perfect Dark and shit like that. Yeah.
It's like, oh, the show's about to start. I just fucking kicked Britain's ass 1v1 on Rust.
There's a
on
like
the 360
hometown dive bar feel to a lot of these songs that isn't like a step into like the He Is Legend or like ongoing concept universe, but it's something a little bit more like mainstream in a way that kind of really works for me.
Some of this is giving Gideon to me.
A little bit of that, sure. I'll give you that. Gideon for me feels like the perfect amalgamation of that. This feels more like playing in that field, you know, without fully going into it.
But I like that like Wage War sort of started to explore sounds like that.
They've made them significantly more interesting, right? Like certainly. I feel like I walk away from this album and I'm like, this band is just a lot more interesting than I thought they were before. Overall, I just thought like, this is delicious.
More interesting than they had gotten. This band had certainly at some point hit, like on a predictability scale, extremely predictable.
Sure,
right?
Sure.
And like now it's like I don't possibly know where they could go with the next record. Again, while listening to this record, I wasn't sure what the next song would sound like. It most of the time did not sound like the one that came before it or the one that would come after it, right? So just Wage War is like pretty exciting at the moment in a way that I really appreciate.
I think what stands out to me the most is that they're exciting in a space that not a lot of bands are exciting. I think they are treading this line of octane rock metal that a lot of bands have obviously from the metalcore scene dived into recently. And what I think is that it's gotten us a lot of like stale recreations of songs that have been popular in the last few years, and it's grown quickly tiresome. And then suddenly Wage War comes along, and for all intents and purposes, you can almost sort of anticipate the same thing, and they circumvent it just enough so that they still stay within that same realm and in that same conversation with all those other bands, but they're doing something just different enough that they stand out. And I think is what really going to help set them and this album apart. I finished listening to this and I'm like, this is a summer metalcore album. Like, I can't wait to roll my windows down and fucking listen to this. This is the start of the fucking summer right here. And this is festival headlining material. This is the kind of album that I think, like, if Wage War dropped this 20 years ago, they could have rode it into the fucking sunset as being one of the biggest rock metal records of, like, the last 2 decades. And I think there's still an opportunity somewhere in here for them to do that.
Yeah, this one feels instantly bigger than Manic. Mm-hmm. And I know Manic had a couple of songs that did very well for this band. It might be some of their biggest songs in
But you could take that as a learning, right? You could say maybe they learned from Manic, maybe they learned from Pressure, maybe they learned from the albums that came before that. And that's how we eventually got until this point. You know, maybe there's some learning from all the work that Cody has been doing, like producing and writing for other bands as well, right?
So
or maybe just writing. I'm not sure if he produces.
I mean, I feel like I've shared most of my thoughts on this record. I had 2 questions for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Which was 3 favorite tracks. Can you name them? And then what's your least favorite track?
3 favorite tracks.
And,
Okay.
And answer in whatever of the 2 ways you'd like to. In whatever order.
This is very, I haven't, okay. Blur for me stood out immediately. Immediately.
Okay.
Yeah. As soon as I heard that song, I was like, there's no way this doesn't drop day and date with the album as a single. So when I saw it announced like that very morning, I was like, yeah, of course.
Okay.
Or like the day before, I was like, yeah, obviously. I think I'm going to go with The Show's About to Start, because it just caught me off guard at the very beginning of the album. Like, starting with like an electronic element, I was like, okay, all right, sure. And then I might go Hellbent, because I think of the sort of like hard rock, southern tinged silliness that this album brings. That's the one that most struck me.
I like it. I think I'm at Magnetic. Like, I feel like I can't count. It's just like, I really
It's the
enjoy
easy
that.
pick?
That's like, I feel like that should be our default number 4 for both of us.
Wow, interesting. I might have gone Nail 5 personally.
Hellbent for me, probably Tombstone, and then I really appreciate that closer. Is this how it ends?
Wage War's always known how to close an album, and this is no different than before, right?
And I feel like the only song we have not discussed at all, which is the like maliciously, insidiously why I asked that second question.
Sure.
In My Blood is really bad.
It's not bad. I
It's-
think it's silly self-awareness.
It's very
It's
much
like a million southernisms, and I think it's meant to be the more like it's fun. I just think it's fun. I truly just think it's fun. And I think it has
think it
all
will
of
be
the like
fun
marks
and-
of a song that could be terrible, but manages to get away with it.
I think it does have all those marks. I agree. I think it is fun. It will be fun in the live setting. Listening to it on the studio is like, it's like probably as bad as that one Motionless in White song.
No.
Yeah.
No. Talk about like Red, White, and Boom or whatever the fuck. Yeah.
It's that song for this album.
No, because I think the space works significantly
9 out of
better
10
for
is
them
pretty
than it
fucking
did
good.
for Wage War, personally. So overall, I could say that you and I are, I guess, pretty happy with this one.
I think I'm actually pleasantly surprised.
Okay.
I didn't have the highest expectations heading into it, and I think I ultimately walk away from this album happier than I expected to be.
I'll take it. That leaves us with just one record, Margos. I Want to Disappear by The Story So Far.
Never enough to have you here. I'd rather just watch you go. And all of the things that you still feel are for people you used to know.
This is the Walnut Creek, California outfit's 5th studio album, released the 21st of June via Pure Noise Records. I Want to Disappear consists of 10 tracks and is the long-awaited follow-up to 2018's proper Dose LP, Sam. It has been 6 long years.
More than half a decade.
More than half a decade. About half a dozen.
Decades? No,
Not
no,
quite.
that's not how that works. It's a baker's dozen decade. No, that also doesn't work.
From the press release, when speaking about the record, it's hard for the band to pinpoint what inspired them in writing its songs, but for the 4 of them, there was a lot going on, both personally and professionally, in their lives. And I quote, "We kind of grew out of our 20s between this record and the last," says multi-instrumentalist Ryan Torf, who's mainly the drummer in this band. I continue this quote. "Like a lot of people, you go through so many different things in life and you're faced with different challenges. As a band, when you go through hardships, you realize that some things are more important than music. These can and do take priority over playing, and that can feel divisive. It's sometimes necessary, though, to get to where you want to go." Another quote. "We were waiting for all the stars to align for our individual situations," adds lead guitarist Kevin Geyer. so that this record could be the priority and that we had the time and space to make it happen in the way that we wanted it to. We went through a lot as people and as a band to discover what was working about it, and we leaned into that. I move forward with another quote here. We're always just trying to make something that we love and that feels like it's relevant to where we are in life, says Torf. We've already done so much in the past, but we wanted this to feel like the present thing that we are. The current lineup, Sam, right now features Parker Cannon on vocals,
Yeah.
Kevin Geyer lead guitar,
Yeah.
Ryan Torf drums, Will Levy on guitars, and I'll also add that this is the first release without bassist and founding member Callan Capener, who was dismissed in 2022 after 15 years with the band. He was a founding member.
I don't remember the exact rationality behind that, but I remember, I believe there was bad blood there.
Which is funny because I believe in the initial statement they said no drama. But yeah, as far as any reasoning behind that, I still, to this day, believe none of that was ever shared. Capener was not, and I think it's Capener or Kapner, I don't know, was not officially replaced. Again, Ryan Torf overtook bass duties in studio, and then former Man Overboard bassist Nick Brucesi joined the band in a touring capacity.
Pop punk is a small world, huh?
It is,
You
because
just
I'll
reach
also
over to
note,
one of the other bands and say, hey.
honestly, I'll also note this, Sam, recorded
you
and
in.
mixed by John Markson at the Animal Farm studio in Flemington, New Jersey. We
Sure.
talked about John recently. He produced that recent One Step Closer album, All You Embrace.
Banger of an album.
Plus projects from Drain, Koyo, and Belmont, among others. Many
Banger
others.
bands.
10
All right, so we're
tracks.
here. So we've gotten here. So it's been 6 years, and now we're here, and now this is the album, and now we can talk about it.
Yes, sir.
You did not include the most important aspect of this, like, lore behind the album, and I'm
What
like,
did I
I don't even know how to
miss?
move fucking forward without it.
What did I miss? That they
So
opened
this
for
album,
Blake?
this album was written at a time during and now since Parker Cannon has lost his father, and listening to this album, you hear that in every ounce, in every fucking bit of the lyricism from start to finish, and I think that is incredibly important context to have going into this record.
Where did you see that context?
Parker Cannon gave an interview. I can't remember exactly with who. It might have been like Rolling Stone.
That would have been good to know, and I would have included it had I known any of that.
Sure.
But now knowing that, it does answer a lot of fucking questions that I had about this record lyrically.
What are your questions? Ask me some questions. So
Well, I
maybe,
mean-
are all your questions are this about the loss of a family member? Because yeah,
Well, I'm like, what kind of breakup did we go through?
No,
Like,
you see,
I'm
that's the
referencing
thing.
like the Story So Far albums from the past.
that's just the thing, is that, you know what? I think you can go into this album and you can enjoy it in the same capacity that you enjoy any of the Story So Far album. You don't, but you do, because Parker Cannon is going through what happens to be like the worst breakup anyone's ever experienced in their whole life, right? Like that's the, you and I on our other show, Ranking the Scene, recently listened to Under Soil and Dirt, and realized that Parker Cannon really is the Taylor Swift of pop punk and knows just how to frame and phrase their experience of breaking up with someone that they're in love with in a way that like is addictive. And I think they're one of the best to ever do it. Turns out that Parker Cannon is also incredibly adept at translating those feelings about his love and loss of his father as well. And
again,
I think
yeah,
he
a
ends up
lot of-
creating something equally as powerful as everything else that's come before it.
definitely a lot of lyrical references to mourning and loss and all that.
Yeah.
So yeah, to know sort of the meaning behind why that stuff exists on this record
It's
is
critical. It's quintessential.
It's critical, and it's heartbreaking as well.
I kind of want to know your take on this album. Like, what were you going to come in here and what were you going to say about this album? How were you going to talk to me about this album, not knowing, like, what I think is the critical context behind it?
That Letterman might be my favorite track of this year.
Okay. Letterman's a very good song.
Letterman is a fucking... It is, to me, again, probably the best song of the year. I think it is.
What do you like about Letterman?
It's got a big fat ass chorus, dude.
It's got a big fat ass chorus.
It's got a big fat ass chorus, bro. And
Let's talk about Letterman.
we were going to talk about Wage War, or we talked about Wage War, and we talked about how this is like a summer album for them, their new record, Stigma. And to me, like, that's kind of this feeling that I get with the story so far, and not just because it's a pop punk album and you think about like Warped Tour or whatever, but
You
I don't know, this band captures in energy so well. And while so much of it is very personal and clearly emotional from like a vibes level, like this is just windows down music most of the time.
You had a good time with this.
I did have a good time.
Let me
Now
pull
I
this-
feel guilty for
let me
having
pull
had
this
a
line
good time
from
with this. I'm
Letterman.
not gonna lie.
Let me pull this line from Letterman for you, Marcus.
I didn't understand it before.
You were singing along to this? It's never going to help me admit that you're gone and to just accept it.
I thought I was about to break up. I really did. I feel so guilty now.
It's brutal. It's brutal because what that one small bit of context does to completely shift your overall feeling towards this record is incredible.
You're watching
because,
it shift in real time over here.
Yeah, you can look at Marcus's face. What's crazy is that, yes, you could simply, at a surface level, accept this as another song where you interpret all of these individual analogies as being about the loss or breakup or end of a relationship, right? Because in some capacity it is. Except you don't know the depth of that loss. You don't know what relationship that is. And it turns out that it's actually fucking harrowing, right? It's like one of the hardest things you'll ever have to go through in your life. And once again, I think Parker Cannon very elegantly puts it into words, and this band translates it into songs. Once again, I wrote down notes. I don't know if I'm going to make this a regular thing, but it turns out that when I shoot from the hip, I'm ass. So I thought maybe moving forward, I'd write down a couple things that I thought about albums in the moment. The story so far, that's how I started this. Knowing the subject matter that drives this record elevates the experience immensely for me. It's enjoyable without it, surely. But I feel significantly more connected to Parker's words and sentiments knowing what happened. It's threaded through every inch of this record, and that journey is harrowing and deeply emotional. The text is rich with beautiful, thoughtful, affecting lyricism, Marcos. Those were my broad thoughts. From there, I just took a moment to sort of pluck individual lines from every song that really kind of like spoke to that subject matter. And when I sort of when I saw that connectivity, like I realized just how much it was embedded in everything that was happening here. Like it's not like the closers about the loss of my father. It's the album. It's all of it. Marcos, we're going to talk about the opener all this time. I pulled a line. You've just been counting down, making plans from when you're not around, right? And I'm thinking about this in the back of my mind. I'm thinking about this. I'm always thinking about who he's talking about, right? I mentioned that line from Letterman earlier. It's never going to help me admit that you're gone and to just accept it, right? Nothing to say fades out in the end with, I don't feel you at all. I don't feel you at all. She just feels like it keeps getting heavier, right? Keep you around. Shield, this is my favorite line from the album. Shield myself in the color of your likeness. One of the hardest bars I've ever heard in my
Stands
whole
out
life.
without the context too, Sam. I'll note that.
I understand that. You're still in my way, Marcus. I pulled a few lines here. And it's racing around inside my head. All of the things I could have said, holding your hand right beside that bed, how can this be so hard to accept?
I'm starting to pick up on all this now.
It's like Parker Cannon is just holding the hammer and the chisel and like the stake, and just like with each song, with each line, just like a little deeper and a little fucking closer to just piercing your heart completely.
There was another great line, and I forget what song, but it talked about being distant. Someone mentioned like you're distant, but that doesn't mean that I'm not there or something like that.
Right, because there's a lot of this sort of implication that, hey, you know, I'm in a band, I'm touring constantly, I'm not home. It's like, I'm starting to think, well, you know, that's probably a surface level take, but like, how do I know what their relationship was like, right, too, as well? Like maybe there's like an emotional distance there as well.
Yeah.
Like maybe they're not as connected as they wanted to be, or as Parker wanted them to be, right? And then finally, I just pulled the line from the last song here. I want to disappear. And anywhere you are, it's never that far from here. And all the things you are, you'll feel them loud and clear. Which I just thought is like this kind of like this sort of like peak moment. It's like this sort of like, you know, we've reached the end and now we're sort of like reflecting, but sort of with a slightly positive level of optimism, right?
It's going to be tough to sell people on this being a summer album now.
I mean, but it is in some capacity, and I think that's like the magic of the story so far is that they know how to take like these deep emotions, but also like meld it in a way that they also can kind of play as just like, I wouldn't necessarily say fun pop punk songs, but they have like a certain tempo and a certain energy that makes you kind of like enjoy them. Like that's how you're being fed. Like that's how you're getting your medicine, right?
Totally.
I just think what they've done with this record overall is just incredibly beautiful. There's like the very end of this record, like when you start to get into like the more melodramatic tracks, like where we just sort of like slow the tempo down a little bit, like with White Shores and like I Want to Disappear. I just think like obviously it becomes like even more deeply affecting, and this band knows exactly what the fuck they were doing, and they were doing it really fucking well. So like overall, just really thoroughly impressed with what the story so far put together here, and made that 6-year wait worth it. Though part of me gets the impression that, you know, maybe life stuff is what, and I think you mentioned it earlier from the press release, made it so difficult to kind of like finally get to this point, right?
Yeah. There's also one thing I didn't include. It wasn't from this press release, but I read it elsewhere, which was that the band really made it sound like they had no intentions of releasing Big Blind last year, but that they were contractually obligated because of that big tour they were on with
Blink-182. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Big Blind for me initially is another one of those songs where it feels dramatically different than a lot of what's on this album in some capacity. But I think, again, like you sit there and you kind of like chew on the lines a little bit, and then you'll maybe find that it's probably more connected than you think it is.
Sure.
But it is funny because I remember we got Big Blind and then we got Letterman, and I was like, I do not have this band pinned in a way that I thought I did.
Not at all. Right?
Yeah. And then we went back and we listened to like Under Soil and Dirt, and I'm like, I've now also developed a much stronger appreciation for this project than I thought I originally had. So now I'm coming into this record with like a lot larger expectations than I was initially, and I really think they delivered on those.
Brief side note, if we have any more metal-leaning fans looking to need any more reason to check this pop punk record out, it's that I cannot get over the similarity in the voices between Parker Cannon and James DeBerg from Thousand Below in a way that I just hear them in each other now.
They do weirdly have a similar like inflection to their voice. It is very interesting in that capacity.
But really happy with this record, really impressed. I think well worth the wait, and some of that additional context really pushes this one over the edge for me.
Okay. Happy to be back, guys. Hey, fuck it. We'll be back again next week, too. With plenty to talk about, I'm sure. If you like the episode, leave 5 stars on Apple or Spotify, or a thumbs up on YouTube. It's always appreciated. If you want to support us, patreon.com/SOTS podcast. As always, every link you need in the description of this episode. Have a good week, guys. Bye.
Good play.